Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd love to know what you think. Every comment helps me make the next story better. Subscribe to stay tuned. I never expected to become invisible at my own wife's birthday party. We'd been married for 2 years, together for 4, and I thought I knew where I stood. Sure, things have been different lately, distant, maybe, but I chalked it up to her new job, the stress, the long hours. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself we'd get back to normal once things settled down. I was wrong. Rachel's birthday fell on a Friday that year, and she'd been planning this dinner for weeks. She told me it would be mostly work friends, people from her new team at the tech company downtown. I didn't know most of them, but I didn't mind. It was her night. I just wanted to be there, to celebrate with her, to be the supportive husband. The restaurant she chose was the Pink Door, tucked away in Pike Place Market. It's one of those places with dim lighting, exposed brick, and tables that feel too close together. They'd reserved a private room in the back for about 15 people. I'd worked late that day, so I arrived maybe 10 minutes after everyone else. When I walked in, Rachel was at the center of a crowd, laughing at something a tall guy in a blazer had said. She looked beautiful. She was wearing the dress I'd helped her pick out last month, and around her neck was the silver necklace I'd given her for our anniversary. Her face was flushed with wine and happiness, and for a second, I was just glad to see her enjoying herself. I walked over, weaving between tables and chairs. She saw me coming. I watched her eyes flicker in my direction, watched her register my presence. I leaned in to kiss her hello, the way I always did. She turned her cheek at the last second, gave me an awkward half-hug, then immediately stepped back. The tall guy, I'd later learn his name was Brad, looked at me with polite confusion. "Oh," he said. "Who's this?" Rachel didn't miss a beat. She smiled, that same bright smile she'd been wearing all evening, and said, "Oh, this is David. Just someone I know from the neighborhood. Just someone I know." The words hit me like cold water. I stood there, my hand still halfway extended for a handshake that never came, trying to process what I'd just heard. The group nodded politely, already moving on to the next topic. Rachel turned away from me, re-engaging with Brad's story about some client meeting. Nobody asked me any follow-up questions. Nobody seemed to think it was strange that just someone from the neighborhood had shown up at a private birthday dinner. I excused myself, mumbled something about finding a seat. My face felt hot. My hands had gone cold. I walked to the far end of the table and sat down, putting 3 empty chairs and about 8 people between us. A waitress came by, handed me a menu, asked brightly if I was celebrating too. I almost said, "I'm her husband," but the words stuck in my throat. For the next 20 minutes, I watched Rachel hold court. She was animated, engaged, constantly touching Brad's arm when she laughed. At one point, someone complimented her necklace, the one I'd bought her, and she said, without hesitation, "Thanks. My sister gave it to me for my birthday last year." I sat there with my untouched appetizer, listening to my wife erase me in real time. That's when I started thinking, really thinking. I began replaying the last few months in my head, looking for the moments I'd missed, the signs I'd ignored. They came to me in flashes, like photographs I'd filed away without really looking at them. 3 months ago, Rachel got promoted. She'd been so excited about it, talked about it for weeks. When the official celebration happened, the team dinner, the champagne toast, she told me it was just a small thing, no spouses invited. I believed her. But 2 days later, I'd gone to surprise her at the office with flowers, and her boss had looked genuinely confused. "I didn't know you were married, Rachel," she'd said. Rachel had laughed it off, made some comment about keeping work and personal life separate. I'd felt a little strange about it, but I let it go. 2 months ago, I noticed all our photos had disappeared from her Instagram. Not archived, deleted. When I asked her about it, she said she was cleaning up her feed to look more professional. "It's better not to have too much personal stuff online," she'd explained. I'd nodded along, thinking maybe she had a point. 1 month ago was our anniversary. I'd made reservations at Canlis, this expensive place overlooking Lake Union. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. She canceled the morning of, said there was an emergency at work. That night, I saw her tagged at some bar in Capitol Hill with her coworkers. When I mentioned it the next day, she looked annoyed. "Someone must have tagged me by mistake," she said. "I was at the office the whole time." 2 weeks ago, I realized she'd stopped wearing her wedding ring to work. "It's uncomfortable when I'm typing all day," she'd told me. But she wore all her other rings just fine. I'd see her put the wedding band back on when she got home, like she was clocking in for a shift. And this past week, she'd mentioned a colleague named Brad maybe a dozen times. Brad needed her input on a project. Brad wanted her feedback on a presentation. Brad and she were staying late to finish something urgent. When I'd offered to bring dinner by the office, she'd told me not to bother. We're in the zone, she'd said. Don't want to break our concentration. Sitting at that table, watching her laugh with Brad, it all clicked into place. She hadn't been hiding me. She'd been erasing me. And just someone I know wasn't a slip of the tongue or a joke. It was the truth, at least, the truth as she saw it. I'd been demoted from husband to acquaintance, and I hadn't even noticed until now. I thought about our wedding. 2 years ago, almost to the day, we'd gotten married at a small venue on Bainbridge Island, just family and close friends. Rachel had been so happy that day. I remembered her vows. She'd written them herself, told me I was her best friend, her partner, the person she wanted to face everything with. She'd cried when she said them. I'd cried too. After the ceremony, we'd taken photos on the beach, her white dress getting sandy and wet at the hem. She hadn't cared. She'd been laughing, pulling me close, kissing me between shots. I can't believe you're my husband, she'd kept saying. I'm so lucky. When had that changed? When had I gone from being the person she was lucky to have, to being someone she couldn't even acknowledge in front of her coworkers? I thought about our first apartment together, before this one. It was tiny, a one-bedroom in Ballard with thin walls and a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. But we'd made it ours. We'd hung photos of us on every wall. We'd cooked dinner together every night, standing hip to hip at the narrow counter. We'd fallen asleep on the couch watching movies, her head on my shoulder, my arm around her waist. When did we stop doing that? When did we stop being we? I couldn't pinpoint an exact moment. It had been gradual, so gradual I hadn't noticed it happening. She'd gotten busier at work. I'd gotten used to eating dinner alone. She'd started coming home later. I'd stopped asking where she'd been. We'd drifted into being roommates who occasionally shared a bed, and I'd convinced myself it was normal, that this was just what happened when you'd been together for a while. But it wasn't normal. It wasn't what I'd signed up for. And sitting at that table, watching her pretend I didn't exist, I finally saw it for what it was. I stood up quietly, left 2 20s on the table for my untouched meal and drink, and walked out. Nobody noticed me leave except one of Rachel's friends, a woman named Julia, who gave me a puzzled look but didn't say anything. I walked out into the Seattle drizzle without my jacket, my head spinning, my chest tight. I walked for a while without any destination in mind. The streets around Pike Place Market were crowded with tourists and couples and people who seemed to know exactly where they belonged. I ended up at a coffee shop on First Avenue, ordered something I didn't really want, and sat by the window watching the rain streak down the glass. That's when I thought about the present. I'd ordered Rachel a custom leather portfolio from a boutique in Belltown. It cost $400, which was more than I usually spent, but it was her 30th birthday, and I'd wanted to get her something special, something she'd use at work, something she'd think of me when she used it. I'd even had it personalized with her initials. It was supposed to be delivered tomorrow, Saturday morning. I pulled out my phone and found the confirmation email. The boutique's customer service line had closed at 6. I sent an email. Please cancel order number 47829. Do not deliver. We'll call tomorrow to confirm. The reply was automatic. We'll respond to your inquiry within 1 business day. I sat there for another hour, drinking cold coffee, watching people pass by outside. Around 10:30, I headed home. I knew Rachel wouldn't be back until late. She never was when she went out with her work friends. I had time to think, time to figure out what came next. Our apartment was on Capitol Hill, a 2-bedroom we'd moved into when she got her promotion. Most of the furniture was hers, brought from her old place or bought by her parents. The art on the walls, the dishes in the kitchen, even the couch I was sitting on, all hers. My contribution to our home fit into maybe 3 boxes and a closet. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of the refrigerator humming and the occasional car passing outside. Somewhere around midnight, I heard my phone buzz. I didn't look at it. Around 4 in the morning, I got up and made coffee. I stood at the kitchen window, watching the sky slowly lighten over the buildings across the street. The city was quiet at this hour, peaceful. I thought about calling someone, my brother, a friend, but what would I even say? My wife introduced me as just someone she knows at her birthday party. It sounded ridiculous, petty even. But it didn't feel petty. It felt like the truth I'd been avoiding. I found myself thinking about my dad. He'd passed away 5 years ago, just before I met Rachel. He'd been married to my mom for 38 years, and I'd asked him once what the secret was. It's simple, he'd said. We choose each other. Every day, even on the days we don't like each other very much, we still choose each other. Had Rachel stopped choosing me? Or had she never really chosen me at all? The sun was starting to rise when I finally heard Rachel's keys in the door. Rachel came home just before midnight, laughing at something on her phone. She was surprised to see me awake, sitting in the living room with all the lights off. "Oh," she said. "You're up. Did you have fun at dinner?" I just looked at her. She frowned, her smile fading. "What? Just someone you know?" I said. "What? That's how you introduced me tonight. Just someone I know." She sighed. That particular sigh she used when she thought I was being unreasonable. "Oh, David, don't be dramatic. It was a work thing. You know how it is." "No," I said. "I don't. Explain it to me." She set her purse down on the counter, crossed her arms. "My colleagues don't need to know every detail of my personal life. It's called professionalism." "Professionalism? Is that what you call pretending your husband doesn't exist?" "I didn't pretend you don't exist," she said, her voice rising slightly. "You were there. I acknowledged you. Just someone I know is how you'd introduce the guy who delivers our mail. Why are you making such a big deal about this? You're being incredibly sensitive." I stood up. "When did you take your wedding ring off tonight?" She glanced down at her hand instinctively. The ring was back on her left hand now, but I'd seen her at the restaurant. It hadn't been there. "I told you," she said. "It bothers me when I type." "You weren't typing at dinner, Rachel. You were wearing it, just not on your left hand. It was on your right hand. I noticed." She paused, her jaw tightening. "I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to tell me the truth. When did I stop being your husband?" "You're still my husband," she said, exasperated. "This is ridiculous. I'm tired. Can we talk about this tomorrow?" "No. We're talking about it now." "Fine. What do you want? An apology? I'm sorry I didn't introduce you properly. There. Happy." "That's not an apology," I said. "That's you trying to make this go away. Because there's nothing to talk about. You're inventing a problem where there isn't one." "Then why did you tell someone your necklace was from your sister?" "I bought you that necklace." Her face changed. "You were listening to my conversations?" "I was at your birthday dinner, where you introduced me as just someone you know." Jesus Christ, David. I don't remember every detail of every conversation. Maybe I misspoke. "You didn't misspeak. You lied." She threw her hands up. "I'm done with this conversation. You're being paranoid and jealous, and frankly, it's exhausting." She started walking toward the bedroom. "Who's Brad?" I asked. She stopped, turned slowly. "He's a colleague. We work together." "And that's all?" "Yes, that's all. Not that it's any of your business who my coworkers are." "Right," I said. "Because I'm just someone you know." "Stop saying that. It's what you said." Her eyes flashed with anger. "I'm going to bed. You can sleep on the couch if you're going to be like this." She went into the bedroom and shut the door. A second later, I heard the lock click. I stood there in the living room, listening to her move around on the other side of the door. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just certain about what I needed to do. I sat back down on the couch and pulled out my phone. I started making a list. Saturday morning, I woke up around 6:30. Rachel was already gone. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter saying she was meeting Julia for brunch and would be back around 5. "No, good morning. No, we should talk. Just a schedule update." I made coffee and opened my laptop. I started documenting everything. What was mine, what was hers, what we'd bought together. I took photos of the apartment, cataloging the furniture, the dishes, the electronics. Then I looked at our finances. Our rent was $2,400 a month, split evenly between us. We had a joint account for bills with about $3,000 in it. My personal savings had $18,000. I didn't know how much Rachel had. We'd always kept our personal accounts separate, but she made more than me. Significantly more, especially after the promotion. I could afford my own place. Easily. At 10 o'clock, I called the boutique. A cheerful woman answered. "Hi. I need to cancel order 47829. "Oh, let me pull that up." "Oh yes, the personalized portfolio. It's beautiful, actually. We just finished the customization yesterday. Are you sure you want to cancel?" I'm sure. Please refund the card. We can hold it for you if you change your mind. Sometimes people. I won't change my mind. Cancel it, please. All right. I'll process the refund. You should see it in 3 to 5 business days. Thank you. I hung up and immediately got a confirmation email. Order canceled. Refund processing. Next, I started looking at apartments. I spent the morning scrolling through listings, marking possibilities. By noon, I'd scheduled 3 viewings for that afternoon. By 3 o'clock, I'd found a place, a small studio in Fremont, $1,300 a month, available immediately. It was half the size of our current apartment, but it had good light and a small balcony. It felt possible. I put down the deposit on the spot. Then I came home and started packing. I worked methodically, room by room. Clothes from my side of the closet. Books from the shelf in the living room. Only the ones I'd brought into the relationship. My laptop, my headphones, my coffee maker. In the bathroom, I took my toothbrush, my razor, the cologne I'd bought myself. In the kitchen, I took a few dishes, a pan, some utensils. Everything else was hers or came from her family. Everything I owned fit into 3 suitcases and 4 boxes. It was startling, really, how little of our life together was actually mine. The couch, the bed, the dining table, the lamps, all hers. The art on the walls, the decorative pillows, the plants, all hers. Even the coffee table had been a gift from her parents. I'd been living in her apartment, not ours. Around 3 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was my brother, calling from Portland. Hey, he said. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a while. I almost told him everything was fine. That's what I would have done a week ago, a month ago. But sitting there surrounded by boxes, I couldn't do it anymore. Rachel and I are done, I said. There was a pause. What happened? I told him. About the birthday party, the introduction, the patterns I'd finally seen. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. How are you feeling? He asked. Honestly, I don't know. I keep waiting to feel angry or sad or something. But mostly I just feel clear. Clear is good, he said. Clear means you know what you need to do. I'm moving out tomorrow. Found a place in Fremont. Good. Need help? No, I've got it. Not much to move, actually. Another pause. Then, you know this isn't on you, right? What she did, introducing you like that, erasing you from her life. That's not about you not being enough. That's about her. I felt something loosen in my chest. Thanks, man. I'm serious. You showed up. You were there. You tried. That's all you can do. If that wasn't enough for her, that's her problem, not yours. We talked for a few more minutes, about nothing important. His job, the weather, our parents. Normal brother stuff. But when we hung up, I felt steadier somehow. Like I'd been given permission to trust my own instincts. Sunday morning, Rachel texted me. Going to Mom's for lunch. Be back around 5. We should talk when I get back. I didn't respond. Instead, I called a Lyft XL and started loading my things. It took 3 trips to move everything to the new apartment. The driver was patient, helped me carry boxes up the stairs, didn't ask any questions. By 4 o'clock, I was done. I stood in the Capitol Hill apartment one last time, looking around. 2 years of my life had happened in this space, but it had never really felt like ours. The photos on the walls were all of Rachel. Rachel with friends, Rachel at work events, Rachel with her family. The one photo of us together, our wedding photo, was in the bedroom, facing away from the door, easy to miss. I left my keys on the kitchen counter, closed the door behind me, and didn't look back. The new apartment was sparse but clean. I unpacked methodically, hanging clothes in the closet, setting up my laptop on the small desk by the window. I ordered pad thai from a place down the street and sat on the floor eating straight from the container. My phone buzzed. Rachel. I didn't look at it. Over the next few hours, the messages piled up. 5:14. Where are you? 5:47. David, seriously, where are you? 6:23. Your stuff is gone. What the hell? 7:15. We need to talk. Call me. 8:40. Are you really doing this over a stupid introduction? 9:52. David, this is childish. Come home. I turned off notifications and went to bed early. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The next morning, I went for a run. I hadn't run in months. Rachel always complained about me waking her up early, so I'd stopped. But now, in my new place, I could do what I wanted. I ran down to the Burke Gilman Trail, did 3 miles, came back sweating and exhausted and feeling more awake than I had in years. When I got back to my building, I ran into my neighbor, an older woman who lived across the hall. She was carrying grocery bags up the stairs, struggling a bit. "Need help?" I asked. "Oh, would you?" "Thank you, dear." I carried her bags to her door. She unlocked it, then turned to me with a warm smile. "I'm Carol, by the way. Just moved in a few days ago." "I'm David. Welcome to the building. Where are you coming from?" "Capitol Hill," I said. "Oh, lovely area. Moving for work?" I hesitated. Then, no, just needed a change. She nodded, and something in her expression told me she understood more than I'd said. "Well, change is good sometimes. This is a nice building. Quiet. Good people. I think you'll like it here." "Thanks. I think I will too." It was a small interaction, barely worth mentioning. But as I went back to my apartment, I realized something. I'd had a normal conversation with a stranger. I'd been friendly, helpful, present. I hadn't been worried about whether I was saying the right thing or being the right kind of person. I'd just been myself. With Rachel, I'd started second-guessing everything. Every word, every action, every choice. I'd been trying so hard to be enough for her that I'd forgotten how to just be. At 11:47, my phone lit up one more time. I happened to glance at it. "Where's my present?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Ask someone you know." I turned off my phone and went back to sleep. Monday morning, I blocked Rachel's number. Then I changed my email password, removed her from my emergency contacts, and updated my address with my bank, my employer, and my insurance company. I went to work, came home, unpacked another box. It felt surreal, like I was watching myself from the outside, but I kept moving forward. At work on Tuesday, my coworker Sarah stopped by my desk. "You okay?" she asked. "You seem different." "Different how?" She tilted her head, considering. "I don't know. Quieter, maybe? But also, I don't know how to explain it. Like you're actually here." I thought about that. I guess I am here. More than I've been in a while. "Good different, then?" "Yeah," I said. "Good different." She smiled and went back to her desk, and I realized she was right. I was present. I was focused. For months, I'd been going through the motions at work, half my brain always somewhere else, worrying about Rachel, about our relationship, about whether I was doing enough. Now, with that weight gone, I could actually concentrate. I got more done that day than I had in weeks. During lunch, I sat in the break room and actually tasted my food. I listened to my colleagues talk about their weekend plans and chimed in with my own ideas. When someone asked if I wanted to join a happy hour on Friday, I said yes without checking with anyone first. These were small things, unremarkable things, but they felt like victory. Rachel tried calling from different numbers throughout the week. I didn't answer. She sent emails. I didn't open them. Wednesday afternoon, she showed up at my office. Security called me, told me someone was in the lobby asking for me. I told them I wasn't available. They escorted her out. Friday evening, she somehow found out where I was living. I don't know how. Maybe she'd called my work. Maybe she'd asked around. She buzzed my apartment. I didn't let her in. That same day, I got a text from Julia, one of Rachel's friends from the birthday dinner. "Rachel says you left? What happened?" I wrote back. "Ask Rachel what she told her coworkers about me." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, "Oh, I'm sorry, David." Monday of the second week, I sent Rachel one email. Just one. I kept it brief and practical. "I'll continue paying my half of rent through the end of the lease, for more months. After that, you're on your own. I'll arrange to have the joint account closed. Keep what's in there for this month's bills. We can handle the legal separation through lawyers." She didn't respond to that message, but the panicked texts from other numbers continued for another week before they finally stopped. 2 weeks after I left, Rachel agreed to meet me. Just once, in public. I suggested the Starbucks Reserve Roastery on Capitol Hill, the big one with all the noise and people. Neutral ground. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table near the back. She looked different, tired, less polished. Her hair wasn't styled the way she usually wore it. She was wearing her wedding ring, I noticed, wearing it prominently on her left hand. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as I sat down. I nodded. "I don't understand why you're doing this." "I think you do," I said. "So I made a mistake. One introduction. You're throwing away our marriage over that." "It wasn't one introduction, Rachel. It was everything. That night was just when I finally saw it clearly." "Saw what clearly?" "That I don't exist in your life." I'm not your partner. I'm not even just someone you know. I'm someone you've been trying to erase. That's not true. When's the last time you posted a photo of us? When's the last time you invited me to a work event? When's the last time you introduced me as your husband? She looked down at her coffee. I keep work and personal separate. No, you kept me separate. From everyone. Because admitting you were married didn't fit whatever image you were building. I wasn't building any image. I don't know. I didn't think it mattered that much. And that's exactly the problem, I said. I didn't matter that much. She was quiet for a moment. Then, the rent is due again in 2 weeks. I can't afford the apartment on my own. I stood up. I already told you. I'll pay through the lease. After that, you'll need to figure it out. That's it. You're just done? I was done the moment you pretended not to know me. I didn't pretend not to know you. You introduced me as just someone you know. That's worse than pretending. That's the truth. David, please. Take care of yourself, Rachel. I walked out. She didn't follow. I found myself walking back through Pike Place Market. It was afternoon, sunny, crowded with tourists taking photos and buying flowers. I hadn't meant to come here, but my feet had carried me anyway. I walked past the Pink Door, the restaurant where this had all started 2 weeks ago. The door was propped open, and I could hear people laughing inside. I kept walking until I reached the water. I stood at the railing overlooking Elliott Bay, watching the ferries come and go. A busker nearby was playing guitar, something soft and melodic I didn't recognize. I thought about what Rachel had said at the coffee shop. I didn't think it mattered that much. That was the core of it, really. I hadn't mattered. Not enough to introduce properly, not enough to include, not enough to fight for. But the thing was, I did matter. Just not to her. A kid ran past me chasing a seagull, laughing when it flew away. His mother called after him, smiling. Couples walked by holding hands. An elderly man sat on a bench feeding pigeons. Normal people living normal lives. None of them worried about whether they were enough for someone else. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo I'd kept as my wallpaper for 2 years, a picture of Rachel and me from our honeymoon in Hawaii. We were on a beach, sunset behind us, both of us grinning at the camera. We looked happy. We had been happy. But that was then. And this was now. I changed my wallpaper to a photo of Green Lake I'd taken on my run that morning. Then I put my phone away and walked back to my car. 2 months after the birthday party, I heard from Julia again. She texted me out of the blue, just to check in. How are you doing? I'm good, I wrote back. Really good, actually. That's good to hear. I'm sorry about how things went down. Me too. How's Rachel? There was a long pause. Then, she had to move out of the apartment. Couldn't afford it. She's living with a roommate in Wallingford now. I didn't ask for more details, but Julia offered them anyway. She and Brad dated for a few weeks. Didn't work out. She asked me if you were seeing anyone. What did you tell her? That it was none of her business. Thanks, Julia. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. I appreciated that more than I could express. My apartment in Fremont was small, but it was mine. I bought a couch from IKEA, assembled it myself. I hung photos on the walls, pictures of me, my friends, my family. I put my wedding photo in a box in the closet. Maybe I'd throw it away someday. Maybe I wouldn't. It didn't matter. I started running in the mornings around Green Lake. The loop was just over 3 miles, and I liked the ritual of it, the cold air, the quiet, the rhythm of my feet on the path. I joined a local running club, met some people, made plans to grab beers after long runs. My brother called from Portland, asked if I wanted to come visit. I said yes. We spent a weekend hiking in the gorge, not talking about much, just being brothers. It felt good. 3 weeks after I left Rachel, the running club planned a group hike up Rattlesnake Ledge. I almost didn't go. It was a Saturday, and I had a dozen excuses ready. But I'd been saying yes to things lately, trying to build a new life instead of hiding in my apartment, so I went. There were 8 of us on the trail that morning. The hike was steep, 4 miles round trip with an elevation gain that left us all breathing hard. But at the top, the view opened up, Rattlesnake Lake below, the Cascades stretching out in every direction, snow still visible on the peaks. We sat on the rocks at the summit, passing around water bottles and trail mix. Someone told a bad joke. Someone else tried to one-up it with an even worse joke. We laughed, took photos, complained about our sore legs. A woman named Marie, who I'd run with a few times, sat down next to me. Beautiful up here, she said. Yeah, I haven't done this hike in years. Why not? I thought about it. I don't know. Life got in the way, I guess. She nodded. Life has a way of doing that. But you're here now. I'm here now, I agreed. On the hike down, my legs shaking from the descent, I realized I was happy. Not because of where I was or who I was with, though both were good. I was happy because I'd chosen to be there. I'd said yes. I'd shown up. And nobody had made me feel like that was too much or not enough. One Saturday morning in late June, I sat on my small balcony with a cup of coffee. The sun was out. One of those rare perfect Seattle summer days when the sky is impossibly blue and everyone is smiling. My phone buzzed with messages from the running group, making plans for later. I thought about closure. How people always expect it to come in neat packages, an apology, a final conversation that ties everything together. But real life doesn't work that way. Rachel never apologized. She never understood why I left. She only understood that she'd lost something convenient. And I was okay with that. That night at her birthday party, when she introduced me as just someone she knew, she'd told the truth. I was just someone she knew. Someone she'd married, someone she'd lived with, but not someone she valued. Not someone she saw as essential. And now I was someone she used to know. I finished my coffee, went inside, and got ready to meet my friends. The apartment was quiet, but it was a good quiet. The kind that feels like peace instead of loneliness. I wasn't her husband anymore. I wasn't just someone she knew. I was just myself. No qualifiers, no diminishments, no erasures. And for the first time in years, that was enough. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.